support team ABDM. Today we are organizing the session on SNOMED City implementation for benefit of all the integrating partners. This session will help you to clarify all your concerns regarding SNOMED City. Note to all, the session will be recorded and available on Sandbox website and ABDM YouTube channel. It is being requested to all, please keep yourself on mute. We will be having question answer session in last 30 minutes. You may use raise hand feature for speaking. I now introduce to all Ms. Manisha Mantri, project lead and co-investigator of NRCS, Joint Director CDEC Pune, and Sri Achyut Patil, lead SNOMED City Education, Tooling and National Release Activities at NRCS, Joint Director CDEC Pune. Manisha ma'am, you may please take over the session. Manisha ma'am.
Sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity and introduction. Uh, Today's session is mostly completely on SNOMED City. So me and my colleague Achyut will let you go through the overall SNOMED City understanding, and then a small demonstration followed by the presentation over on how SNOMED City is organized and how you can use it in the ABDM also. So let me share my screen. Okay, just give one confirmation. My screen is visible.
Yes ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, thank you so much. Uh, so let's start to give you a background on about SNOMED City initiatives in India and how we started with SNOMED City in India. SNOMED City has been notified as a primary clinical terminology by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare through the Electronic Health Record Standards for India in August 2013, and later have been also notified in December 2016. And followed by the notification, India became member of SNOMED International around in 2014, and then CDAC Pune has been appointed as the India National Release Center for SNOMED City through its NRCS project, where NRC India is responsible for promoting, adopting, and supporting integration of SNOMED City in health records in India. The MOHFW also notified SNOMED City as primary coding system for all the clinical relevant information in National Digital Health Blueprint, which was released in 2019, and then later was being implemented as National Digital Health Mission. Now we call it as ABDM, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, which was earlier announced in August 2020. So in ABDM also, SNOMED City we use as a preferred clinical terminology. So about SNOMED City now. So SNOMED City basically stands for SNOMED City Clinical Terms, as is. It's now used as an acronym. So there is no full form kind of a thing for SNOMED now. And it is being owned, maintained and distributed by SNOMED International. It is also known as ISTSDO. I request participants to please mute themselves so that others can listen. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So SNOMED City is owned, maintained, and distributed by SNOMED International. So what is it? It is a comprehensive multilingual clinical health terminology, which is used to code, retrieve, analyze the clinical data on computer systems. It's for computer systems to be able to unambiguously understand the clinical information while processing or while sharing or while retrieving or analyzing. So SNOMED is actually, if you look at the history, it is a result of the merger of SNOMED reference terminology, which was called as SNOMED RT, which was again developed by CAP, and the clinical terms V3, CTV3, which was developed by NHS UK. And now it's being used in India as well. So if you kind of look at the coverage of SNOMED City, so SNOMED City has the kind of comprehensive vocabulary to describe clinical findings, disease, procedures, etc., and they contain unique clinical concepts, which are more than 3,55,000 unique clinical concepts and 1.5 million individual terms as synonyms to these clinical concepts, and then more than 3 million relationships between those concepts. So what does it do? It aims at transmitting these concepts, clinical concepts that have been expressed throughout the history of the healthcare domain in a unambiguous format, and allow the computer systems and allow the health systems to achieve semantic interoperability between while sharing data. So the terminology is comprised of concepts, terms, and relationships, which we'll talk about them later, with the objective to precisely represent clinical information. So unique representation is what is the key for clinical terminology. So all of these clinical content are provided so that the expressivity of clinical document and reporting becomes easier. So, what are the benefits then of using such clinical terminology? First and foremost, standardized recording of clinical information at a greater level of specificity, and that later allows you to improve sharing of information across the care settings, and then ability to receive such information in an electronic format in health records like discharge summary. You receive data in a coded format, which then you can do the analysis on top of that data, and then you can aggregate this data across cases settings, and then you can do the further analysis also on top of that data. So all of this is possible if you start recording clinical information in standardized format. The data then can flow electronically across healthcare system, and then you without you are required to trying to re-enter the data, find out the equivalence code, do the relevant local mapping. So all of this will not be required if all the healthcare system uses a unique single comprehensive clinical terminology across all the health systems. So that's the biggest benefit, and then it reduces us ultimately to repeat the documentation of clinical information, health history for each encounter, because all of this information is coded, available at your health system for treating a patient. Now let's talk about the design benefits of SNOMED City. So when we kind of look at the design benefits, first and foremost is its own comprehensive clinical coverage, this clinical scope. It reduces the need of supporting multiple code systems because it covers maximum of clinical information. We'll look at the coverage also in the later part, and also provides a common framework for consistent retrieval and processing of data. Since the content development happens, or the content arrangement happens in the same framework, uh, it is easier for anyone to retrieve or process data through that common framework. We call it as having the logical definitions available for defining clinical content, and they allow clinically relevant meaning-based retrieval as well. We will kind of go through all of these things in the later part of the presentation. It also has the post coordination support, where you can combine one or more codes to add more details or specificity that is needed within your scope of usage of SNOMED City. So you can use the different codes to do post coordination for that purpose. And the last and the most important design benefit is its update and versioning, where SNOMED City has regular updates, including 2 biannual updates, and also the now there are incremental updates that are coming in, which are monthly releases of SNOMED City. And you can have the full historic view of all the versions of terminology. So there are a lot of things that are there. So if there is a new term getting added, you will know when and how it was added. If a term has been changed, then that history is also preserved in SNOMED City. So that's the most important design benefits of SNOMED City. The next benefit that I'm going to talk about, it's national flexibility. So the way this SNOMED City has been designed, we can extend it for our own usage, the country specific usage, or the organizational specific usage of it, uh, for which will ultimately benefit care providers and patients alongside. So it's extensible by design. So this enables developing national or local contents. So it allows it has the framework where we can do translations as per country's requirement, configure it to meet the national requirement, create subsets, refsets, cross maps, uh, on top of the clinical terminology, and then also have the there are a number of open source tools and and the services that are provided by SNOMED International as well for releasing or for developing these national extensions to SNOMED City. So if we talk about the coverage now, so this is what is the coverage of SNOMED City. So you call it any clinical domain, maximum clinical domains have been covered for coding of clinical information in SNOMED City. So you need not have to look for a separate coding system for diseases, separate coding systems for procedures, separate coding systems for drugs. So all of these are being taken care in SNOMED City, whether it is diagnosis, laboratory, procedure related observations, the orders, laboratory related concepts, chief complaints, all of them have been covered in SNOMED City. So let's talk about SNOMED City hierarchies. So these are the different, so all of these domains are in SNOMED called as the hierarchies when it arranges content, clinical content within the terminology. So it has around 19 hierarchies now, where if you can see, the maximum coverage has clinical finding, procedures, body structure, organism, substance, and pharmaceutical biological product, followed by the other hierarchies. So major and widely used or domains, clinical domains have been covered in SNOMED City. Let's kind of look at little bit of basics of SNOMED City because it's important to kind of get a hold on what exactly is, what am I talking about post coordination, what is this concept, what are these relationships. So yes, let's talk about concepts in SNOMED City. Actually, concepts are nothing but the clinical ideas in the terminology. So whether you call it as a lung itself is a concept which is uh, categorized or classified in the body structure hierarchy. And when I say cough as one clinical idea is again a clinical concept.
This is Dr. General from Viral Hepatitis Control Program. The voice is not audible for the presentation, please.
Is it better now?
It's clear for us. It's very clear for us.
Yeah,
it's clear for us.
Yeah, it's very clear. Yeah.
Maybe there is a
it's
problem
clear.
on your side.
Yeah, it's clear for us.
It is clear for us.
Please
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
everyone. Shall I continue?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
you can rejoin the meeting.
clear for me.
You might hear better.
okay. So I was talking about concepts in clinical terminology. So all of these clinical ideas, even if you talk about, you know, one of the concept, for example, you call myocardial infarction. So this is also a clinical concept, and it is itself a unique clinical idea. So every concept will be given a concept ID, which is a numeric identifier. You can see in the example here at the downside on the left side of the presentation, the example with the number shows a clinical concept myocardial infarction, which has an identifier as 2229806. It's not to be remembered by clinicians. It's for machines to process. And every concept has a unique human readable fully specified name. So a fully specified name is generally used for modeling of clinical terminology. So when you called myocardial infarction with a bracket disorder, it will the concept itself will be known as, this is a fully specified name of the concept, and it will specify me that this belongs to disorder as a hierarchy. So if you kind of look at, let's now go on the next part. It's not now there is something called, so coming back again, so every concept has a unique identifier as we discussed, and every concept has a unique fully specified name. What else it has? So it has multiple different components attached to it, like descriptions, relationships. So coming back on the descriptions, relationships, this is the diagram which kind of explains you what are the descriptions in SNOMED City. So we talked about the fully specified name. May I use a pointer if yes? Yeah. So if you can see here, the myocardial infarction with the bracket disorder was looked as a fully specified name. However, the same concept with the same identifier can be referred with multiple terms. Those terms are called as synonyms and are also called as descriptions. So the same clinical concept can be referred as heart attack or MI as a short name, or infraction of heart, and so on. So you can have multiple synonyms to the same single unique concept. So the ambiguity of identifying a unique clinical idea is taken care of, where the identifier is given to every single unique concept over here. So the descriptions are in here are the terms or names that are assigned to a concept. So term in this context means a phrase which is used to name the concept. And there are two types of descriptions as we discussed. One is the fully specified name, and others are the synonyms. So going back on the relationships. So these are actually these are actually linkages that are provided from between one concept to the other concept. So they link different concepts with each other. So relationships, so each concept is logically defined through its relationship to the other concept, where every active concept will have at least one is a relationship. So is a relationship is also known as supertype subtype relationship or a parent-child relationship, where for an example, if you can see here, the fracture of tarsal bone is connected with a easier relationship to fracture of foot. So while reading a terminology definition, what I will read is fracture of tarsal bone is a fracture of foot. So this is connected with easier relationship. However, there are other relationships also. If you can see here, having finding site is equal to bone structure of tarsal and associated morphology as fracture. So whatever defined here, you can check there are unique identifiers given to each and every. So all of these are clinical concepts in SNOMED City, and they are linked with the relationships with each other. So these relationships are the logical relationship. They are just not on the fly, but there is a meaning that the concept gets through these relationships. So this is the logical model of SNOMED City, where all of these three components, that is concept, descriptions, and relationships are there. Every concept has an identifier. Every concept has multiple descriptions. One of them is fully specified name, and others could be more than one synonym. And every concept has at least one is a relationship and more than one attribute relationships, as we seen in the last slide. So let's talk about the expressions in SNOMED City. There is there is this concept of called as expressions. So expressions are of two types: pre-coordinated expressions and post-coordinated expressions. So pre-coordinated expressions are the ones which are fully already defined in the terminology and have been given a unique identifier. The example is fracture of tibia. We just saw one of the example in the last slide that was also a pre-coordinated expression. The concept is already defined with the logical definition. However, sometimes a full concept may not be defined in the terminology, but you may want to describe it more specifically, adding one or more attributes to it to kind of provide a complete meaning to that concept. So for example, laparoscopic removal of device from abdomen. So this concept may not be completely defined in SNOMED City. The laparoscopic removal of device is there, abdomen as a concept is there, and you want to relate with them. So you want to relate it with, say, for example, the below explanation given that removal of device from abdomen as a procedure is already defined, and laparoscope as a device is already defined. So you combine both of them to represent your own meaning of clinical content. So this way you can do the post-coordinated expressions as well. Now coming back onto the SNOMED City implementation aspects, okay, what all things we need to consider while implementing SNOMED City? These are few basics, and Achyut is going to give you a small demo, also get you browse through the SNOMED City browser as well. However, let's kind of look into what are the implementation aspects that we need to consider while integrating SNOMED City. So why develop a software with SNOMED City? That's the first question that we may get. So the important reason would be to have clinical semantic in a computable form, which is very, very difficult if you start doing everything on your own, start from the scratch. We have synonyms and dialect specific descriptions available, which helps faster implementation. So one care provider may be very much comfortable writing MI, and other care provider would like to write ischemic heart attack, and then both of them want to provide the way they want to. However, you want to link it uniquely, so all of that is there already in terminology. You need not reinvent the wheel. The data, the SNOMED City data are provided in tab separated files, which can be easily loaded into any data store. So very easy to integrate. It has regular updates. It is fully versioned. The data analytics can be performed because it has a formal description logic definitions. The way the concept model is defined, the way the relationships are defined, you can do a lot of data analytics on top of it. And it enables applications with improved user interface, data storage stored in computable format. You can do decision support on top of it. You can use it as a common code system for the whole integrated data, and so on. So you can have the secondary usage, clinical research as well coming in while you are using clinical terminology in healthcare applications. Now coming on to the role of SNOMED City. So let's now see the areas in which SNOMED can be used in an electronic health record system. So typically when we look at the EHRs, it usually is designed with the both health record store to record health related information for every patient, and a terminology data store, which kind of keeps the code and terms that may be ultimately used to kind of document the health records itself. Now, in order to initialize or update this terminology data store, SNOMED City and other required coding systems you need to load onto this data store. And then the same data can be then stored, entered, stored, and retrieved within the health record. Further on, it can be then displayed also. The same data then can be used for decision support and guidelines. What's wrong? What went wrong? What went right? How to correct it? So a lot of quality checks can also be done. Then the data may also be extracted into ultimately a data warehouse or similar secondary data stores to kind of do queries that you can execute over the data, generate report, and the performance of various analytics functions. And then lastly, you can also send this data in a standardized format to any other systems or applications as well. So these are the multiple ways where SNOMED City can be used and then can be beneficial ultimately. Okay. Now let's come back onto the SNOMED City implementation stages. So SNOMED City, implementing SNOMED City can be thought of in a number of stages involving strategic, technical, and practical considerations. From a practical perspective, so the strategic stage, I would say, includes first you decide to adopt and then plan how do you want to integrate the terminology. What would be the design considerations in the technical stage you need to take care of? What are the specifications that you need to adhere to? And then ultimately, in the practical perspective, successful deployment and use involves actually configuring systems to meet all the requirements of users, and then ensuring that there is an effective use of systems delivered. So we kind of these are the different stages where you need to take care of and ultimately understand that the system will be used by healthcare providers. So we need not make it as complex as it is, not readily acceptable at the first stage. So how then can you integrate SNOMED City, right? So this slide actually tells you the different ways in which SNOMED City can be implemented in different systems. So first you can implement it simply as a code system to store clinical information. You don't do any further processing on the terminology. And then later it can also be used as an interface terminology. I'm talking about code systems in the sense that you may have your own local jargons on your interface, just that you do the mapping and storing of these codes of SNOMED City at the backend. However, you can go one step further where you can integrate it as interface terminology, where you capture as well as display clinical information coming from SNOMED. Then ultimately later you can use it as an indexing system where you can use it for efficient retrieval of clinical information. And then further, you can use it as a common terminology for sharing data, to integrate heterogeneous data between different systems. You can also use it as a dictionary to query, analyze, and report, and also to link the health record with the knowledge source. And then also you can use it to represent new types of clinical information. So use the different features, the extensible features of SNOMED City to represent new types of clinical information like post coordination or any other new features of SNOMED City. Actually, the different ways you can integrate SNOMED City. This is one example. I wanted to show you one page. This is the screenshot of one of the applications which is implemented in India, and one of the implementers we also supported, where we had them integrate SNOMED City. This is a user interface, and you can see nowhere you will be able to know that a clinical terminology has been integrated at the back end, where symptoms have been SNOMED City coded, disorders are SNOMED City coded. The active medications are SNOMED City coded. The medical conditions are SNOMED City coded, and so on. So you can see this as one good example where SNOMED City is implemented, and it's an Indian implementer who has reported the implementation to us. So, what is the, how do we choose the technological approach in the sense, what use cases we will take care, which SNOMED City will support, and how will SNOMED City be used, and how what are the different performances requirement as well, and how will we update SNOMED City, and how do we manage the updates also of the terminology. So all of these are addressed on each of the slide coming on later. A key question is to consider what use cases SNOMED City will support. So it can be supported as a simple terminology to advanced terminology for a single patient to the large population. So all the 4 quadrants are possible. So different levels of health record processing and the terminology processing exists, and the types of SNOMED City enabled services to be developed depends on what use cases are supported by the application. So for example, if application wants to support simple data entry retrieval of patient's health record and sharing of this health record, so you are in the first quadrant where you are talking about a simple terminology used for a patient. Then you want to use the same data for advanced purposes where you want to aggregate the clinical summary, kind of use clinical decision support, query the clinical history of the patients, link it to the clinical knowledge. Then you're talking about the advanced terminology usage for the single patient. And then the third quadrant looks like for population. You want to integrate data of heterogeneous the patient's data from heterogeneous sources and do the population queries based on simple codes like subset membership and so on. So that again comes in the third quadrant, and then ultimate usage would be to achieve the fourth quadrant as well, from the first till the fourth, where you do the population health management, do epidemic surveillance, do clinical research on top of this, and all of it is possible using SNOMED City. I missed on the annotations, sorry. So then how will SNOMED City be used? So we'll have to consider the infrastructure, software architecture, whether you want a non-distributed or distributed architecture. So for example, there is a software design where the health record as well as the terminology storage resides with individual health application. Or the different way would be the another approach would be where the health record is stored locally, but there is a centralized terminology server where SNOMED City components and derivatives, everything is there, and it's being maintained at one place. Sorry, centralized health record and the centralized terminology. And there would be this third approach where you can say that a centralized terminology, but distributed health records. So health records are at local place. However, the terminology server is stored centrally. So all of these architectures are possible when you are integrating SNOMED City. It's on the implementers to decide how they want to adopt and implement. Now, then how should performance requirement be met? So for simple terminology usage, you should be able to do effective lexical searching, such as indexing, lexical optimization technique, type ahead. These kind of methods needs to be provided, and what all underlying infrastructure is needed for that purpose needs to be supported. However, for advanced terminology usage, effective navigation of subtypes and attribute relationships may be needed. And for that, you may need dedicated in-memory technologies, a lot of storage, caching, parallel processing for computation. So all of this may be required. So these are the different approaches that you need to think about while before you decide how you want to use clinical terminology. And how these SNOMED City updates will be managed. So there are SNOMED City releases coming in every month and as well as biannuals. So for example, I'll tell in COVID pandemic days, there were interim releases provided where the SARS-CoV-2 virus itself, the knowledge about the virus was itself evolving, and based on the new information, medical sources, the new terminologies were getting added. So whether RT-PCR can be conducted, or there is a new procedure, or there is a pneumonia for, due to COVID-19. So all of these new knowledge that being coming in with every day there is a new information coming in. So in intermediate releases of SNOMED City were provided so that that information can be documented in health record as early as possible in a coded format. So all of those have to be thought about. How do you upkeep, update, maintain SNOMED City? It's not that once you install and deploy, you are done. You need to upkeep whatever new editions of SNOMED City are coming in, new releases are coming in. You need to update the terminology storage folder storage at least, so that the new information can be retrieved for clinical documentation by the healthcare providers. So what are the different advanced usage of SNOMED City, right? We were talking about advanced usage. So some examples I have given, although those are not the complete lists, but these are some of the examples where SNOMED City can be used. So this is the first example of natural language programming. It's a technology and the terminology that you can use together to come up with this information. So you can see here that there is a clinical text over here, and few highlighted terms which are in context have been picked up and using natural language processing, and the entities have been identified, and the clinical terms, relevant clinical terms from SNOMED City has been picked up. So here you can see the list of concept IDs here in the clinical findings table, with the preferred terms coming in, and the procedures with concept IDs and their preferred term. And then different contexts have also been captured. So, this is a simple example where discharge summary narrative is provided, but procedure with the clinical NLP that also extract the explicit context of each of the procedure is also mentioned over here. Let's see another example how SNOMED City can be utilized for analytics by using different this SNOMED City relationship features. Okay, so there is this example we have taken. It's again taken from SNOMED City educational material, where benign tumor of kidney has been described, and then there are other concepts are also there. So if you can see here, the first query, let me take the laser pointer once. If you can see here, the first query, so if you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 8 clinical concepts are there. And I kind of try to drop the first query here, where I want to retrieve the findings which have a benign tumor morphology. So the query predicate is get all the concepts which have associated morphology as benign neoplasm. Okay. And then if you see the query result in the orange, divided with the orange line, you can see out of all of those 8, only those ones have been returned where the associated morphology is benign neoplasm. You can check here 1, 2, 3, right? So in that you have the benign tumor of kidney, benign neoplasm of bladder, and benign tumor of lung as well. And that's what is the outcome. However, if I change my query where I want to retrieve the findings located in kidney, so all the findings which are related to kidney, so what I do is the query predicate is get me all the concepts which have finding site as kidney. So what I get in the return is highlighted with the green line here. Everywhere, wherever the finding site kidney is there out, have been located and returned. Now, if I want to get all of them, say for example, I make a query like, get me all the children's from clinical finding hierarchy where associated morphology is benign neoplasm and finding site is all the subtypes of kidney structure. So what I'm saying, where associated morphology is all the subtypes of benign neoplasm and finding site is all subtypes of kidney structure. So if I'm talking about all subtypes of kidney structure, I get all of these in the list over here, which are described with the concept IDs and the preferred terms. So there's something called preferred terms. Out of all the synonyms, one term will be marked as preferred term in SNOMED City. I hope this example was clear a little bit. Let's try to see another example where we can use SNOMED City for decision support. Here is an hypothetical example of CDS alert, which is put into practice for the medication. Okay, so we have a patient, Rakesh Meher, and then the demographics view added, who is being previously diagnosed with the allergy to penicillin. And then the doctor tries to prescribe a new drug such as amoxicillin 500 mg tablet, and an alert is displayed to remind the clinician of the allergy, stating the patient is allergic to penicillin and would you like to look for some other alternatives. So we can define the rules that has a condition and an action to be taken if that condition is evaluated to true. So the condition is if a medication is provided for which a substance is same as the listed substance in the allergy, then maybe provide an alert. So all of this is possible without trying to build new databases. SNOMED City already have these relationships and linkages inbuilt into the clinical terminology. Let's kind of try to see another example where kind of we can illustrate how SNOMED City can help in building this CDS logic you saw in the previous slide. So we are leveraging the SNOMED drug model now and defining the relationships in SNOMED City. So drug product have defined ingredients, right? In this case, amoxicillin is the substance. So in SNOMED, the way our drug, the generic drugs are defined, it will have the list of active ingredients also in the defining relationship. Now, we use the hierarchy to determine what that is the type of penicillin. So penicillin class antibiotic, and then what we do is we can compute this using SNOMED City ECL, which is query language, to generate a query which says list all the drugs that have one or more active ingredients of penicillin or any type of penicillin. So I can get those results. So this is where you can also use SNOMED City to kind of get list of drugs which have active ingredient as penicillin. So this is how the CDS logic can be built on top. Okay. Let's now talk about what are the different aspects of integrating SNOMED City. So we now saw what is SNOMED City, how the concept model is, what are the benefits, what are design benefits, what are the implementation considerations that we need to take care of, what are the advanced things that we can do using SNOMED City. Let's now look at how can I integrate SNOMED City. Now I know about SNOMED City, I want to integrate it in my health application. How do I get SNOMED City? The first question. So SNOMED City is distributed as set of tab delimited text files. The release package itself contain full release as well as snapshot release. So snapshot release will have the all the current state of every component, and full release will have the complete history. So generally you use full release when you want to do a data warehouse operations or a historic analysis, or sometimes when you want to do the mapping of the older data values. However, generally in the production machines, people use snapshot release because we want to always show the active ingredient, active concepts to the healthcare providers for documentation. And then it is available to all the registered affiliates. So what Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has done is it allows free distribution and usage of SNOMED City in India because India is a member. MOHFW has decided that SNOMED City will be freely available for all the implementers within India for usage, for development, for deployment. Then NRCS has been designated as NRC for SNOMED City, and we manage SNOMED City affiliate licenses. Registration, we help implementers to get SNOMED file, integrate SNOMED file as well. So you can register to access SNOMED City file as member licensing and distribution service, which is hosted by SNOMED International. There is one more package apart from SNOMED City, which is called as Global Patient Set. It's a managed list of SNOMED City concept. It is freely available under Creative Commons attribution for anybody, whether they are affiliates or not, whether countries are members or not. There is no cost associated for download or use of GPS. However, you will not get SNOMED City relationships that I was showing for doing the further advanced operations. You can at max get one preferred term, a identifier, and other associated information. So the FSN, the preferred term, and the identifier of the concept. A simple 4 column tab separated file. So you will not have the multiple synonym option in GPS. So since in India SNOMED City is free for usage, you can register as an affiliate, download the whole SNOMED package, and use all the features of SNOMED City in your application the way you would like to. Now, how do I learn more about SNOMED City? So there are SNOMED City e-learning courses available, have been hosted by SNOMED International, and NRCS also supports, does the validation and provides feedback on these educational material and educational courses. There are 2 fast track courses have also been developed based on request from India itself, which is SNOMED City for developers and SNOMED City for data analytics, data analysts. So these 2 courses are fast track courses. I think 8 hour or some 8 hour or so course time. So anybody who is interested to quickly integrate SNOMED City can go for these courses. There are detailed courses called SNOMED City Foundation course, SNOMED City Implementation course, and SNOMED City Authoring course. So all of these for all of these courses, the information is available online. If you just search on SNOMED City learning courses, you will get more information on these. Let's talk about the other kind of tools and the browsers of SNOMED City. So there are already existing some open source browsers and tools available for SNOMED City. One provided by SNOMED International. It is hosted online. So if you kind of want to browse some of these SNOMED concepts, like for example, sometimes you want to search whether this concept is there or not, or how can I define this concept, what is the identifier for this concept in SNOMED. So you can search those concepts on freely available browser. It is hosted online by SNOMED International, and there are list of browsers and other applications available. So you can refer all of them. There are links provided on the presentation. If you just search on SNOMED City tools in browsers, you will get on the first page on the same link. There are other few good portals that are available where you can register. As soon as you integrate SNOMED City, you are one of the key implementers. You can register your implementation at SNOMED in Action and SNOMED vendor folder to get global visibility across the world. One of the open free and open source toolkit that is being provided by NRCS CDAC Pune is CDAC's toolkit for SNOMED City. So this toolkit is actually free and open source toolkit under Apache V2 license, and all the source code binaries and all of it is available at cdac.in for download, and any inquiry on the toolkit can be done at SDKENQ at cdac.in. It's been integrated, I guess. The toolkit has been downloaded more than 700 times in India, and also there are few users abroad for this toolkit. So what it does is it reduces all your headache of understanding SNOMED City release file. What is it? How do I integrate? How do I create database? How do I search? Writing search APIs, getting data. So all of that is taken care by this toolkit. The toolkit, you just use toolkit and release files to ultimately get to a level where you can kind of directly start integrating SNOMED City. Focus on your implementation and not on the standard. All the standard related requirements specifications are taken care by the toolkit itself. So that's about the CDAX toolkit for SNOMED City. Let's move on SNOMED City implementation status in India. What's happening currently? So yes, so NRCS provides a lot of services for adoption and implementation of SNOMED City. We do provide free and open source tooling as well as education. So just now I talked about the CSNO TK. We do provide FOSS tools, APIs for integration of all the standards, SNOMED City specifically here, as well as the free education and training to public as well as private implementers. We do kind of host the need specific or requirement specific training for different implementers and ensure that their requirement, their use case, because every application has their own different use cases and requirements and context. So based on those requirements, we do conduct customized need-based trainings as well as provide materials to the implementers. We also address the implementation challenges where we assist in the entire journey, I would say from concept to code to deployment for SNOMED City, where we provide free of charge implementation support through our NRC help at cdac.in email ID. The implementation guides, resources, presentations are also available for reference, and the license management and distribution also we do for affiliates in India. Other than that, we many times help the implementers to exactly find out the problem, sometimes help them do the mapping of their local codes to the terminology based on the complexity, or even assist them whether your implementation is going right or wrong. We review the integration as well and provide our comments so that there is no further issues in implementation of SNOMED City. Not only this, while adoption of SNOMED City, we do conduct workshops for clinicians as well in hospitals, where we help handhold the healthcare providers in data entry, kind of try to resolve the problem of using SNOMED City at the ground level. And we also cater to the country specific requirements in terms of if there are changes that you expect or you think that this clinical concept is not there, and then NRC can help to add this concept to the international release. So for example, if clinicians try to search and they don't find that content or clinical term in terminology. So terminology is evolving. It's like a dictionary. You didn't find a word and you think this is missing, you add that new word into the dictionary. So the same way, the clinical content also grows in SNOMED City, and we help to add new content as well as do any changes required to the clinical terms within SNOMED City through NRC. So not only this we do also provide country-specific customization to SNOMED City. So there are a list of India extensions to SNOMED City are provided. So the clinical contents which are specific to India and are may not be required internationally, NRC takes care of those concepts and we content, and we create India extensions of SNOMED City. So for example, um, the biggest extension that we have so far developed is common drug codes for India, where we have been tasked by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare to start coding the branded medicine as well as generics used in India. So the drug extension along with international release now has more than 8,000 generic drugs and 25,000 plus branded medicines now, and the work is ever growing. So it's ongoing work. It'll grow. And other than that, there is Ayush extension that we are working, where we are trying to see how we can ensure that the health data, the clinical data, which is documented in allopathy, is also interoperable, shareable in Ayurveda, Siddha, and Unani systems, and understandable as well, and vice versa. So, how do we achieve interoperability between different systems of medicines? We are trying to focus on that aspect as well. And there are a set of other list of extensions provided here, including patient instruction set, COVID-19 extension, India reference sets for SNOMED City, where we developed 30 simple reference sets, which are domain and specialty specifics, with the help of AIMS New Delhi, where the AIMS team has helped us to validate and ensure that these subsets are complete in terms of the coverage. Uh, Other than that, there is India geographical location extension as well, where the Hindi, English names of states, UTs, and districts and sub-districts have been coded in SNOMED City for seamless identification and analytics within the health records. So these are the different types of extensions which are there. The patient instruction language extension is one where we added multiple synonyms in multiple languages for use on the prescription, where doctor gives, for example, doctor gives an example. Gives an direction that take this medicine twice a day. So how do you translate that in local languages so that the ground level patients can read those instructions while following their prescription or following their medications on the prescription? So this extension helps in that, and Achut is going to give a brief demonstration also on how that can be used in health systems. All of these extensions, few extensions combined. Now let's kind of see what's the status. So implementation wise, if you see, we have more than 700 SNOMED City implementers in India as of now, registered affiliates, and their distribution of the type of implementation is provided on the right side of the screen. However, if you can see the graph of implementation status, it is growing every year, and we have more and more SNOMED City implementations reported. This reporting is not mandatory. It is voluntary reporting, and that's why the number may be completely different on the ground. There may be more instead just having these numbers. A few adopters of SNOMED City, and specifically the India extensions, which have some or the other interactions reported that they have implemented SNOMED City in their applications. Uh, and thank you from my side. We have a short demo from Achyut on how You can use clinical terminology, how you can browse it. So over to you, Achyut.
Thank you, Manisha.
Yeah, thank you, Manisha. So I'll be demonstrating the two kind of applications. One is the SNOMED City browser. So this is a SNOMED CDAX toolkit for SNOMED City, which we call it as a Sysno Finder. This is a SNOMED City browser specifically used to study and exploration of SNOMED City content. So what all things SNOMED City provides: the concepts, the descriptions, their relationships, and the overall the modeling of each concepts, how that is been modeled, so that we can explore using this particular browser. So SNOMED International also provides online SNOMED City browser. So this Sysno Finder you can set up at your local machine, and you can use offline facilities of the exploration. So in this browser, you can see there is a left side, the taxonomy area is there, and at the right side, the concept details part is there. In the left side, you can see in the taxonomy all the 19 hierarchies that Manisha was talking about, the coverage of SNOMED City, right from the body structure, clinical finding, and all other hierarchies in the SNOMED City, where all the concepts in the SNOMED City are distributed within these hierarchies. So there is a top level concept, the SNOMED City concept, and all the 19 hierarchies are distributed below that. So one can explore the concepts in the SNOMED City through the links that is been provided here, and uh, you can navigate and see whatever the concepts that are there belonging to that particular parental concept. The second way you can directly search. Search also provides a facility where you can directly uh, type a clinical content, where you will get, if I type a fever over here, you will get 1258 results. So these all are the concepts which is having a fewer word in it. And in the left side, the filter of the semantic text, you can see in which all hierarchies this particular uh, SNOMED City concept or the fever is present. So you'll find out the fever having disorder hierarchy. There are 796 results are there. So this is how one can explore the contents in the SNOMED City. Apart from that, when I click on the fever word, the right side concept details gets updated, where in the summary tab, there are three sections. One is the parents, then the concept in the blue colored, and its children. So as Manisha has already explained, the each SNOMED City concept are linked with each other in a easy relationship. So it has a parental relationships, and possibly the concept may have its children. So here the fever belongs to the body temperature above reference range is a parental concept. It also denotes the concept ID of particular concept, the fully specified name, and these are the other synonyms to that. So these particular concepts are translated in multiple languages. Let's say here in Sanskrit, Urdu, Tamil, and also in English we have. And this concept has around 21 immediate childrens. So that we can see over here. After that, in the details tab, you can see the detailed concept modeling of fever. Here, the concept ID. This section belongs to different descriptions and the acceptability of those descriptions. Here, the first one is the FSN, fully specified name, and other are the synonyms, out of which the fever is a preferred synonym. And to down to that, it explains the relationships relationship of particular concept like fever. So in a is a relationship, the body temperature above range is mentioned, and also we also seen the attribute relationship, which also talks about the additional information of that particular concept. Like here in fever, it interrupts body temperature and has interpretation above range, above reference range. So this is how the particular concept is modeled in the SNOMED city. Another better way of reading the concept model is a diagram. So this particular diagram you have already seen in the presentation. So it has the parental concept and the additional information or the additional attributes of particular concept. Uh, we can explore multiple examples here. See, I type only append here. You'll get other concept or all the concept result concepts having word append. So this way you can see that you don't need to write the full name of a clinical idea. Whatever it takes only initial three characters and it will give you a result. The way you go on typing, the results gets refined and more precise results gets appeared as a result set. So this is how one can even implement in the application to retrieve the SNOMED city concept. So even if it's this way, you can have a faster data entry of particular concept and in the electronic health record. So if I want to get the result for the fracture of femur, I can simply write FRA FEM. So this also provides me the faster results. So FRA FEM gives me uh, 491 results. Uh, Hello? Yeah. Sorry, it gets muted, I guess. Yeah, so I even need not to write a full words over here. I can simply write of initial three raters and it gives me accurate results. And if you go on writing, the search gets more refined and you will get more precise result to that. Here then in SNOMED City Finder, Sysno Finder, we've provided the ref sets. Here all the extensions that the NRC India has been created and the developed that can be, if those imported into the Sysno Finder, then you can view the results over here. So we have a India Siddha ref sets. All the members of this particular ref set is listed. Then Unani, and for the in the Urdu translation, Ayurveda for in Sanskrit translation, you can see in this. Uh, then we can move to the second demonstration. So this is again one of the e-prescription demo page we have specifically created for just to show the demonstration. This is just a single HTML page, no database associated with that, a pre-populated content or the datas we have already listed here. And it- one thing we can say is that the information that in the e-prescription required that we have only provided here. In a real-time application, there might be a different fields, different way of representation of the particular data entry, or the particular fields can be represented in different kind of application according to the scope or the purpose of the application. Here we have only for the e-prescription demonstration. So whatever fields required for the e-prescription, that is only for the demonstration purpose we have used over here. In the e-prescriptions, we have a doctor's information. We have some dummy doctors information we have information put it, then the patient information. So the SNOMED City enabled fields, I can show you here which all fields where the SNOMED City can be integrated. So here even for the family, the address or the location that can be also get from the SNOMED City. For the occupation, then maybe social service occupation. So this is how this also the list coming from the SNOMED City. In the chief complaint and diagnosis, if we say has of coughing with blood, maybe from last 10 days. Also, he has a chest pain from last 10 days. So we can add the entries of chief complaints. Then comes to the provisional diagnosis. We can have a provisional diagnosis, final diagnosis, differential, and the revised diagnosis. This list also can also codified with SNOMED City. We have a provisional diagnosis, different code, final diagnosis, different code. So we can say if it's a tuberculosis as a provisional diagnosis. And when we come to the medications part, so here the common drug codes for India has integrated. We already know that SNOMED International itself has the generic drug list. Apart from that, we have modeled branded medicine in common drug codes for India. So if doctor wants to provide a generic medicine to the person, then for the tuberculosis, we can so rifampicin, we can have this particular medicine, one dose, maybe once a daily. So this here you can see that the when I mention a particular medicine, this dose form and the route of administration has autofilled. So these are the additional attributes that is associated with the medicine that is directly coming from the SNOMED City. So this is how the attribute relationship or the information that the extra information comes with the particular concepts can be pre-filled over here. And the direction of use also coming from the SNOMED City. We can say that take this medicine for 30 days and we can add this. Next example is parazinamide, 500 mg for one dose once a daily for maybe 30 days. Click. So apart in CDCI, we also provides few of the information along with the medications like indication, contraindication, route of administration, dose forms, and the type of the particular drugs also. So this is all coming from the SNOMED City National Extension, that is SNOMED, that is Common Drug Codes for India. So this is how also can be seen and integrate to check what are the indications, contraindication, which will help doctors to prescribe the medicines. So once all the data has been pre-filled in the prescriptions, we generate a printed form, printed document of the prescriptions to provide to the patients. So this is the print form of a document of the prescription. So where all the chief complaints are listed, whatever the data entry has done, and the provisional diagnosis also done, and the medication. So the other patient instruction language extension that NRCS provides, where all the instructions provided in the e-prescription that Manisha has already told has been translated in local languages such as Hindi, Tamil, Urdu, and Marathi language. Where you can see here, if I click on the Hindi, then the all the instructions gets translated into Hindi language. Similarly, for the Tamil, in Marathi as well as in Urdu. So it reduces the barrier of the language to the patient, to the local patients, those who that doesn't understand the instructions in English, and doctor can provide them in the local languages. So few more languages also we are providing in patient instructions that will be coming in the next releases. Similarly, I'll also generate the fire ABDM prescription record of this particular data, uh, through which a JSON has been JSON will be generated, which can be shared to other systems where the SNOMED City binding has done. So we have uh, we have uh, get the fire NDHM fire profile for the medication record, the prescription record we have created, and this is the JSON where you can where you'll have to share this fire resource to the other uh, with other systems for the data sharing. So I'll show you where exactly the SNOMED City binding is done. So here in the medication field, where SNOMED City, where the medications has a code for that. Here is a code. Then for other instructions, once in a daily, for oral route, for the second conditions, the coughing up blood. So all these has modeled in the SNOMED City, and in the fire resource, the code system binding has been provided. Similarly for the chest pain, all for this. Yes, that's it. These are the two demonstrations we would like to wanted to show you, the how SNOMED City effectively can be stored. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Achyut sir and Manisha ma'am. Now I think we can start question answer session. So please start one by one. Mr. Jinesh, do you have any question? Naresh Agrawal.
Hello, I'm Dr. Naresh Agarwal from Punjab.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah, please.
audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Sir, I am private consultant to the private hospital, which are usually empaneled to the Ayushman policy in 5 states. On the behalf of those hospitals, I have few questions. And being a doctor, I am layman to IT. My questions can be a very basic questions, and please try to reply in a very layman sense. The first one is that what actually it means SNOMED City integration with the ABDM for private hospitals, which are currently integrated with the ABDM as a HFR, hospital facility registry. They get registered there, and they do not have any EMR system and all these things. Everything is going on manually. They do have the TMS, transaction management system, provided by the Ayushman NHA, where they are putting the cases. Now, what actually mean to them out of your this presentation that SNOMED City is integrated with the ABDM?
So I'll answer partly, and maybe the other NHA team members who are there, they may be able to answer partly. So, sir, when we say SNOMED City is adopted for ABDM, right? That means that whenever data is shared on ABDM platform, so when there is an HIP and HIU who are sharing and receiving data or creating data, they should create data in standardized format and code it in SNOMED format. That's the meaning of ABDM adopting SNOMED City. So if you have heard the earlier open house on FHIR, FHIR standard, in that session, there are these FHIR structures being explained, right? So in those structure, wherever a diagnosis or a condition is documented in FHIR record, the condition, if you are documenting in a coded format, then you should document in SNOMED City. That is what is expected in ABDM.
I have one question on your reply. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Actually, ma'am, here is my point. To provide you a data as a provider for your upcoming unified health interface, which will be a ecosystem, you say that instead of writing a disease name, myocardial infarction, we are supposed to write a code. Code should be given to the system.
No. So, sir, healthcare providers need not worry about writing a code. We don't want to go the old ICD way, where you have to remember the diagnosis code to put it on the record. Classification, right? We are not going that way. SNOMED codes need not be remembered or written or shown on interfaces. Even on the demonstration page that Achyut has shown, the codes were just shown for everyone to understand that there is a SNOMED at the back end. But when you see a health system, a health software, you will not see anything as a SNOMED. You will just type the way you were earlier writing, just that earlier it was a free text box or a master list coming in. You may get a type ahead, which is more beneficial. You can quickly enter data, and in the back end, the IT systems will ensure that for that selected term, appropriate code is also selected and stored in the database. And while sharing across the different systems, the same is being shared with the code and the term.
If a hospital has EMR or EHR, we can say, which is not compatible to SCT, SNOMED City, then what is the present status for that software or the system we have?
So, sir, currently what's happening is we are recommending that SNOMED City should be adopted. So if you have a plan of changing the software, or if you have a future plan of doing any changes, it's better to use SNOMED City, right? And if you currently you don't have SNOMED City, but if you want to share data on ABDM platform, you will at least have the HI types developed, right? HI types mapped, created by some or the other way. Either you do mapping, either you create them afresh, or you do it in any of the multiple integration mechanisms. But while you're creating HI types, if you are putting it in SNOMED format, it is good for you as well as the receiving system. That's what is ultimate goal, right?
Otherwise, system will take it that digital data or not, which is not SNOMED City compatible.
For ABDM, currently the system will accept in the way that if you are sharing, if you remember, I would request you to look at the earlier open house on FHIR. It supports data in 3 ways. One is unstructured format, where you just provide the scan document with the some metadata. The second is structured format but not uncoded. And third is structured and coded. So if you code, you have to code it with SNOMED only. There is no other coding allowed.
Okay, that is
okay.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your reply and wonderful inputs given to me. Please continue with others.
Yeah,
Mr. Sasi,
Manisha, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so a couple of questions related to that database of medicine. So, say for example, as a private clinician, or say for example, for an hospital, one EHR is used. Now, if we integrate this SNOMED City medicine list with this EHR of any of the individual clinic or hospital, how it is going to impact, say for example, overall prescription pattern, because you have shown that somebody has shown that the entire picture, that where the moment you put the drug, automatically the doses and everything will come up, and there is a information which is available. Now, if we integrate the same thing in this one, exactly it will come like that. Will it impact the whatever format they have created for prescription, or it will be overlap, or how exactly it will be done? So they have to erase their old data. So I'm still not clear that how we can utilize for private clinic or hospital, because then
Correct.
format
So,
of entire prescription would be different, the doses would be different, and the data which may overlap or maybe crisscross. So that is one part I just wanted to little bit clear about that.
right, Kamlesh, you are now thinking the implementation challenges, right? The thing is ki you may have the older database, having your own different masters created. You may be using some other existing codes as well, some third-party codes or some third-party dictionaries as well. So yes, there is a transition that is needed. So for transitions, there are also again multiple approaches you do, whether you want to kind of archive the older information and start with the new information, or if you want to do further analytics on the older as well as the newer information, whether you do mapping from older to the newer format or newer to the older, it depends on how extensive and complex your older data was. And then how do you want to integrate now SNOMED City? The example that Achyut showed was just a demonstration example, whether clinicians, it also requires that the ultimate healthcare providers who are going to use the interfaces are also on the same line, and they accept the way you design the interfaces. And that's the biggest challenge, because health IT has this big challenge of the acceptance. If you don't develop interfaces which are clinicians friendly, then it becomes another round of problem for adoption. So yes, there are problems, and precisely NRCS can help you on the challenges that every implementers have. We provide one-on-one consultation as well, provide help, give some implementation approaches as well. Sometimes if needed, we interact with international body as well on if there is any such a case which they have encountered, and any worked out solutions for those cases. So for all of that, we help. No problem.
So, but tell me one thing: this database of medicine is an international one and Indian one also, or is it updated as per the CDSO approvals and new drug which are introduced to the India? Because I'm not sure that there are so many databases available we are using of the
So
private agency, but I'm not sure
correct.
about this database which you are utilizing. So, say for example, if it is not complete one, how you are updating, and if you are updated, then I should use your updated one. So, are you
Correct.
ensuring that the combination, all fix those combinations, all new combination, the state FDA as well as the national CDSU has approved, they're all updated? Because I was a part of one of the
Let me speak 1 minute.
with
Just
Ayush.
I got your question. I got your question. So the CDCI development started in 2018, and it's under development. The production release is already done, and there are multiple implementers where it is already integrated, which takes care of their requirement of generic medicine prescription. However, as and when a new implementer comes in and they found that they wanted some list of medicines to be there, we slowly add those medicines based on request, based on information available. And if you have referred the latest National Drug Registry consultation paper, CDCI has been considered for adoption in the National Drug Registry as well. And slowly the manufacturers, CDSCO, everybody is planned to be onboarded so that these contents are grown in a way that it takes care of all the use cases of medicines in India. Currently, there are 8,000 plus generics available, having in international plus national database, including, and we only give content request to the international database because we don't want to create duplicacy at national level also. We want it interoperable cross nations. And that's why we give those content requests to the international STU. SNOMED International adds those generic and those are available for everyone. And for the branded medicine ones are being done in India, and slowly the number is growing. It's not complete. You will not say 25,000 is not a complete list, of course. So it's getting added. Slowly we will have manufacturers onboarded as well.
So till that we cannot utilize, correct?
You can
Because
utilize.
we have a list of 1 lakh SKU and database of currently up.
So if you can help us add those, if whatever is required, that is also plus for the country as well as for you. We'll give you the unit codes.
Ideally, usually we purchase from the third party. So I can give you the some name which have a huge database. You need not to worry about it. Just talk to SMRC,
Sure.
you talk to IQVIA, you talk to AVEX, and you talk to, I think, CMARC. They have a good database, and I think SIMS also. But only issue is that 4 have a different varieties and 4 different codes, and so I'm not sure that which to choose. I cannot say that. But if you have those database, probably you can actually
No problem,
check out the
Kamlesh.
latest.
We can take these database related discussions maybe offline and answer any queries of SNOMED for the other users, if that helps.
Okay, so for just last question for clinical diagnosis and point of view, because you know that globally there is a different style of writing and capturing the data. While Indian doctors would say, for example, it's a intermittent atrial fibrillation with acute myocardial infarction. So myocardial infarction would be there, atrial fibrillation would be there, but there will be no intermittent one now. So if that kind of important information is missing, where to put it across, then it will be totally incomplete. You have shown example 2 things how exactly you can the removal of devices from abdomen and something. But if it's an intermittent one or some word which is there, which usually doctor writes, how to capture it?
That also can be done using post coordination. That also
Okay.
can be done using post coordination, and you may have, if those terms are internationally acceptable, and those, if you think that those should be included in terminologies, those get added also through content requests. So
Okay.
those all, there is this ecosystem already there. So if you don't find something in the terminology, you give a content request. Maybe you'll be explained on whether it is right or wrong from the medical research perspective. And if it is right, then it will be added. Or if there is a local requirement of such content, then how to achieve that, that can also be explained or helped out.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Shashi Kumar. I'm representing eVaidya. I think you answered that query with Kamlesh, but just to get a double clarified. See, we are using ICD 10 codes in our entire EHR. The question is, when I start using SNOMED City, okay, right now the database is stored internally. The complete ICD codes are stored internal to our database, and we fetch it from there rather than accessing over internet. So using the CDAC toolkit, I can access directly without storing internally. Will that help for both my diagnosis as well as compliance diagnosis as well as medicine? Will that work, or should I store it locally? Sorry, your voice is not audible.
Yeah, I was on mute. So CDEX toolkit for SNOMED City, you can deploy it as internal clinical terminology for whole of your hospital or for whole of your software for the setup, and even do it locally. So it is scalable. You can use it as a terminology for multiple systems, one systems as well. And currently, the toolkit is not hosted online as a terminology. because currently we've not received any of such I would say orders from the ministry. However, there are plans in future. You may have the terminology hosted online to refer, but mostly it will be referred for validation purpose. So it is suggested that you need to deploy CSNO TK for your own system's requirement, so that you are up to date with your content and you are able to do any additions that you want to, or any updates that you want to do on the terminology. That's one part. Second, about ICD-10, you talked about you use ICD-10. So in SNOMED City, toolkit itself, there are APIs which you can use for mapping from SNOMED City to ICD-10 automatically for any reporting requirements, for any claims requirement. Because currently, yet today, we have this reporting and the claims requirement in ICD-10, which is understandable also because it's a classification system and you want to report it. So for that, you need not do, two times documentation of diagnosis. You do it in SNOMED in a very specific manner, and then use these SNOMED City to ICD-10 APIs, which are mostly semi-automatic APIs based on the information available about the patient, like age, gender, and the diagnosis. It will try to give you the exact map, and then you just select that map and you'll get the ICD-10 code for a particular SNOMED concept. This is generally an MRD part of work.
Okay.
Does that help, Shashi?
Yeah, that's perfect. The only thing is that once I install the toolkit, the database will be auto-downloaded, or should I refer to some other place for the SNOMED City codes?
So you use toolkit, you download the toolkit, you deploy the toolkit, and then you get the SNOMED City files because they are required to be taken by the affiliates only. You will have your account, you download once, and then you deploy. And then it will be a biannual maintenance work that you will have to do as an implementer to ensure that all the updated contents are available in the terminology.
Okay, fine then. Thanks. It helps a lot. Thanks a lot.
Manisha ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Basically, let's assume that a software right now in India which supports US operations and India's operations, and let's say we are compliant with the FDA NDC compliance, right? So they have given a set of codes, and we are working on customizing that, right? So how different is this SNOMED City code versus the FDA NDC codes? Point one. Point two, if we have to, at this current status situations, we like to build, we are building whatever it is, but we are building global products, right? So everybody look forward to make it compliant with FDA, because they are basically wherever you go, they follow that. Most of the countries, they follow that FDA norms. European countries, Australian, or whatever it is, there might be slight deviations, but most of them, they follow that. So in that instance, my question is basically how different it is from FDA NDC codes when it comes to, when you said the database of drugs, right? So how different it is, and basically if we need to customize that, if we need to make it SNOMED City compliant, right? So what are the changes that we have to do to the FDA NDC code format, so that we will be compliant with you, we will be compliant with SNOMED City. Point one, we will also be compliant with FDA NDC, basically to support US clients plus the clients from India. Thank you.
Yeah, so NDC codes are completely different. They are not like SNOMED. It is a simple. You must have already. You are saying you're referring it. It's a simple code, and the term that is there, and the code are also having some meaning, some alphanumeric codes, right? So they are completely different from SNOMED, and I'm not sure what are the requirements of FDA. However, one link I have shared may be helpful for you from the FDA government, FDA.gov, which talks about SNOMED and how it is interrelated. That may help you.
Yes, definitely. Because generally speaking, the NDC code that I'm aware of it, it has a labeler code, product code, package code. So it's how the numbers are divided, right? So yes. I do not know how the SNOMED City is. If it looks so like if we have to add
in SNOMED also, the model, the way the modeling is done, you have the unique code for a manufacturer. So same manufacturers is referred for all of its medicines being manufactured. There is a product name, so the name of medicine remains same for ultimately a branded medicine with the dose form, route of administration considered, and the strength, presentation strength, denominator strength considered, so that all of this information is used for modeling a drug and giving it a unique identifier, which ensures that it is unique throughout the SNOMED. I'm not sure how, although I know SNOMED has been mandated also in United States, but how it is linked with UDC codes, I don't know. You'll have to check.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Hello, Manisha, this is Pramod. Can I talk in?
Yes, sir. Puchiye.
Okay. I just want to say that firstly, the FDA NCD codes are totally independent of SNOMED when they made it. It was not at all, it was something that came before SNOMED came in, and therefore what they're now doing is they're actually mapping it. And what they and it will NCD will be a competitor for CDCI because NCD basically covers at the brand brand as well as a package level, right? So there is no relation.
Yes.
We'll have to pick up. And secondly, Australia actually has built their own drug database out of SNOMED again. If you look at it, I just wanted to confirm that they don't
Yes,
use
yes.
FDA anymore.
That is right.
Yeah. Now, one more thing I wanted to just point out: when you're using things like CDCI and SNOMED, the frequency and dosage, what it'll cover is what is the size of the tablet, maybe so 500 milligrams or 650 milligrams of paracetamol. It will not cover saying that 650 milligrams given 3 times a day. That is something that your dosage and frequency and all will depend on the doctor to choose, right? Now, Manisha, what real question I had is twofold. How from my understanding, I think the PMJ platform will still continue, which is basically the insurance platform will still continue ICD-10 and so on, right? And therefore, we will have to look at a mechanism when a person is using the ABDM platform, because even if they use the ABDM platform, they will still have to be interacting with the PMJ platform for setting in the claims that they did in the ABDM platform. Now, therefore, we will need a conversion or mapping from SNOMED, which I'm assuming is what is going to be used in ABDM and by the doctors. Not that they will see the code, that they will just use a terminology under which will be the under the hood, which will be attached to the SNOMED term. And when they send in that claim, it should automatically sort of convert to the relevant ICD-10 and go across. I think a mechanism like that should be possible, right?
Yes, it is there. Already SNOMED to ICD-10 conversion is possible, mapping is possible. So that's there, and also PMJY also team is also trying to see if SNOMED can take care of the requirement. Even ICD-10 and 11, they are trying to compare currently.
Yeah, so I think we're working with them to make sure that mapping sort of works out one way or the other, so that so that the providers and hospitals in India basically benefited instead of having to do it twice over. Okay.
Yes.
One more question, important question was actually has been raised before. What are the plans we have for terminology servers? Now, the relevant question comes in because small hospitals who are say 100 beds and below, it'll be difficult for them to maintain an entire SNOMED City, database, a SNOMED City based database, or even the LOINC database and so on, right? I mean, it's not just going to be SNOMED. They'll have to have LOINC for lab resulting. Then they will have to have SNOMED. Then they'll have to have CDCI for in the latest CDCI for all the sort of package level of drugs and so on. So what are the plans that are there to help such hospital actually get into terminology servers for their, lookup, not just for, validation?
So Dr. Pramod, to answer your question, what I imagine currently is we'll have one terminology server maybe for ABDM, which will be generally used for validation, verification purpose only. If there would be the requirement that the terminology server is used for searching and getting the right code and putting it in the health record and doing exhaustive analytics on top of using transitive closure and things like that, then we will have multiple terminology service providers, like we have one in India, which who provides their services, and the different clinics can use those services and are kind of less bothered of maintaining the whole terminology. So
There is
that's what
somebody in
I
India who's
currently
providing it?
say.
There is
Yes,
somebody in India who's
there are
providing it?
there are a few terminology service providers.
Okay. As far
If
as
you're
we have
talking
that, that's
about fire terminology service provider, I am not sure, but there are terminology service providers. They may not have fire semantics.
okay, as yet. But I think there's such a plan that can be moved. Secondly, is it possible to get some budget from the Ministry of Health or something like that to help get, say, NRCES to come up with some terminology services? We'll have to work on it, I guess. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you. All right,
Thank
thank you.
We have few more hands raised.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, nice
Hello.
HMS. Nice HMS.
Yes. Okay. Thing is, for diagnostic reporting, should we use a SNOMED City or LINAC terminology, madam?
So
because in the diagnostic reporting file, both are there.
right. So there is a
Diagnostic
guide
lab
which is
reporting.
there is a guide which is provided where it comprehensively tells when to use line codes and when to use SNOMED codes when it comes to laboratory or radiology diagnostic health records basically. Achut, if you can share the link on the chat, you will find all the details over there. So all in all, if you are recording the observations in the diagnostic report, then it should be LOINC. But if you are providing the name of the diagnostic report, or I would say the service name or the order name, then it should be in SNOMED.
Okay. When you are doing observations only, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So observations in the sense, if you are kind of recording, yeah, reporting basically.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes,
Hello.
Neeraj. Yeah, Neeraj.
I'm Dr. Yeah. Actually, ma'am, I have a one suggestion. It will be better if you build some capsulated VC for the doctors, mainly MD medicine doctors who are running the hospitals. And main point is they will save the time by using the digital method, because there is a problem of conversion from their pad to interface of the computer, or this is the biggest hindrance we have. And if we put the thing in front of them by using the digital mode and by the compatibility of SNOMED CT, you will save your time rather than you will be burdened by this process. This is my suggestion, and kindly put the things.
Correct, Naresh. Actually, we are trying to do this activity from last 3, 4, 5 years and try to convince. But as you are saying, the biggest hindrance itself is adoption of IT, and the biggest challenge is to ensure that what happens is, a health IT development team, they develop softwares, they integrate all complexities, and but then the clinicians are not ready to adopt it or accept it. So that's why I said in my presentation also that ensure that the way you develop software, it is easier for clinicians to adopt. For example, Achut was showing in the demo, you can just type ahead 3 letters only. You get all the details instead of, searching and going through a big checklist of 50 diseases written and then doing it. So imagine the differences of implementing, and we have now great technologies which you can use to simplify the whole user experience altogether of using health IT software. So yes, I mean what you are saying is I agree to.
And madam,
And if there are any opportunities or even any hospitals where you would like to have such workshops and trainings, NRCS can help to do that also. No problem.
please let me know. I can arrange it. There are a lot of hospitals to them. I am consultant for the Ayushman. And let me clear this thing that now the situation has been changed. You had done the so hard work from last 3 to 4 years, but the present situation is that now we put the 10% outcome is 100%. Previously, there was 100% input and output is not even a 10%. So we have to start a fresh and if I get your communication at which point I can communicate you, and then we will start this wave with our private hospitals. They are also looking for some inputs.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Manisha ma'am. I have another question to you. So you said there's a SNOMED CT mapping to ICD-10 is available. So, where do we actually in diagnosis and conditions, symptoms, or we use the SNOMED CT, right? So now, where exactly this ICD-10 comes? My assumption is it should be used for basically claims purposes, but I'm not sure of that. If you can throw some light on it, like where do we exactly use the ICD-10 or how, so that it will help us to basically map our existing ICD-10 back to SNOMED City. Thank you.
Sure. So one of the requirement is for the insurance companies. Yes, of course. So when you have, say, for example, an inpatient visit, and then after that a discharge summary getting created, and then you send it for claim processing, that time they require ICD-10 code. Many of the insurance companies, although many are now moving towards SNOMED and the other mechanisms. But apart from that, Government of India itself has a requirement that all the contiguous diseases and all the notifiable diseases, whichever are listed by Government of India, to be notified in ICD-10. That's the requirement. So all the hospitals are required to notify the diseases in ICD-10 to the municipal corporation for ultimate aggregation and any decision making. And yes, that happens when you have a disease confirmed diagnosis out there for the patient.
Thanks, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Hey Manisha, is it possible that this recording will be shared to us, and also whenever there is a question later point of time we can reach out to you?
Yes, Vinay, definitely there is no problem, and the recording is, I think, recorded from NHS side, so it may be available. Yes.
Yeah. This recording will be shared over ABDM YouTube channel as well as Sandbox website also.
I had a quick question, Manisha or Achyut. Actually, it's more of a point to be noted. I think there are currently a lot of companies, startups, and organizations who are working at building superior UX experiences for doctors to be able to, write prescriptions in a very seamless manner. And we are trying to integrate SNOMED City and ICD-10 and preferably SNOMED City. We are also a part of the like ABDM integration, and we're trying to achieve milestones to be fully integrated and incorporated there. So you did mention NRCS conducting workshops with hospitals who might want to go a digital way, and in fact a lot of our focused user research brought out very similar outcomes, that there is a lot of inhibition or hindrance on the side of a doctor to move from a paper-based mechanism to a digitized mechanism. And I wondered if there was possibility of a collaboration where we can probably with NRCS demo our products to different hospitals or smaller like clinics and nursing homes who want to go down a digital way, and probably showcase our product. And if there are any further refinements which these hospitals require, we're very happy to incorporate those, because I know, like you said, it's easy to build a software product, but for its a very seamless adoption, you do require like good user feedback. So while we think we have something which is really good, we are also trying to build in a voice command mechanism, so where doctors can probably input prescriptions, the different diagnoses or medication dosages, frequencies, etc., using voice commands. So if there is possibility of integrating that as well with SNOMED CT, we're trying to see if ASR is possible there. However, given the fact that we have several accents and colloquial dialects, it becomes a challenge in India. But to my first point, if there's the potential for a collaboration with NRCS or CDAC, to showcase the product to different hospitals, doctors, etc., for their adoption and for further refinement based on their feedback, is that a possibility?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for bringing this up. Actually, what NRC used to do is we used to host users meet every year, twice every year. So that users meet we stopped somehow in 2020 because of pandemic, and we plan to start this user meet again, and that becomes a platform for many to come forward, demonstrate, showcase their product, and also take some feedback from multiple implementers, their own learnings and their issues of adoption. So all of that is possible. And also we do provide a webinar platform at NRCS where the interested implementers can showcase demonstration and adoption of standard, and we host it for free. And then all the users who are associated with us, including hospitals and private healthcare providers, public healthcare providers, all of them come on board to listen and then get more information and knowledge about the product. So those two aspects are there where we can work on what you are kind of trying to propose. But yes, taken noted your point. Definitely we will need more and more such collaborations coming in.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I look forward to any of these meetups. Would they be posted through the ABDM or CDAC or NRC website? Are you guys planning them in the near future?
Yes, those will be hosted through all the mailing lists that we have, and we will also post it on ABDM Sandbox, definitely.
Okay. Yes, I can do that, Achyut. I'll do that right away. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. This was a really good, very seamless explanation of the whole SNOMED City system. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Next question, please. Any more question? I think it has done, ma'am. Well, thank you very much, ma'am. To you and yeah, hello.
No, he's, I think, by mistake unmuted himself.
Okay.
Sahil.
Hi, moderator
Thank
is
you
there,
very
right?
much.
So, can we get the recording of this meeting so that we can revisit it? Is that
Yeah,
fine?
yeah, sure. Already I have told sir that this recording will be shared over ABDM YouTube channel and Sandbox website also. So in either by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, it will be uploaded there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, ma'am, and Achyut sir. And I would like to thanks to all participants for joining this session. And thank you very much. Now we can close this session, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Vinay. Thank you for hosting. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining.